Good evening. I wanted to get on here and talk about something tonight that has been on my mind the last few days. I've seen a lot on social media platforms about some website that is specifically for men doing unspeakable things and taking advantage of people. And I say men, it is predominantly men who are the perpetrators, but not only. And now we can get into semantics and say not all men, and I've heard that. That's true, not all men, but the semantics are not the point. And it's just had me thinking of where does it start? Sexual violence against women. Where does it start? And both for the men, and where does it start for the women who were once little girls who didn't learn to say no to things that led up to it? And I don't know if I'm making any sense. But as a mother of 4 kids, I have witnessed some things over the years in the formative years. For instance, I have a 2-year-old, and the other day I was watching him interact with his sister, and he was doing something she didn't like, and she kept telling him no, and he kept doing it anyways. And something in my brain went off, and I realized that's it right there. It was in play. It was innocent. There was nothing sexual about it. Of course, they're kids, and it was in play. But he completely disregarded her no. And it just hit me that those are the building blocks. Those are the moments when I, as a mom, get the opportunity to teach my 2-year-old that we honor and respect your sister's no, and we listen. And it happens in moments like that. And it happens in moments where an uncle and his niece, young niece, are in a kitchen playing around, and he's got a can of whipped cream because they've been making pancakes, and threatens to spray some on her face. And she says no, not in a joking manner. But he does it anyways because he's just having fun. It's just fun, right? They're just having fun. And she cries because she has said no, not once, but several times. And that seems like it doesn't really matter, right? But in those moments, what is she learning? What is she learning about the men in her life? What is she learning about the power of her no? Will it be honored? Will it be respected? Will it be heard? Or not? And that's where she learns, in those little things that don't seem to matter. As little children, I also think of when I was a kid, and we had this homemade whooping paddle. It was made of wood, and on it were written the different infractions that you would commit that would earn you the whooping paddle. And one of those was open defiance. In other words, if as a parent you tell your child to do something and they say no, that was referred to as open defiance, and it was not accepted in any form or fashion. You don't say no. And this just got me thinking, when you're trained to not say no as a girl, from a girl's standpoint, from a child, to not say no. And it goes even further in religious circles. As you grow in the church that I grew up in, we were told from the pulpit things like, women, when your husband gives you an order, you can ask clarifying questions so to understand the assignment better, or to understand how you can do it better. But that's it. That's all you can say. It's kind of when you're told to jump, the only thing you can ask is how high kind of concept. And the religious culture, and too, as a parent, when you tell your kid something and they just look up and say no, it's like this immediate visceral reaction of, well, how dare you? But I've been thinking about it more lately. Not that it's always okay for for my kids to say no in that way. Like, for instance, if your child was playing in too close to the road and you told them to move and a car was coming and they told you no and didn't obey, that would be dangerous. And that was one of the reasons for that whole a child can never say no to an order rule. But that doesn't always apply. And so I've just been thinking about the building blocks of how we get to such an extreme place with men and women, and how women feel unsafe, and that we're often taught we can't say no, and that those building blocks are in childhood, in innocent little moments. I hope some of this made sense. I don't know if it did. It was just something on my mind and I wanted to share it. Thank you for listening. Have a great evening.